Greetings, my fellow adventurers. It's Elara. Welcome back to our cozy sanctuary, where the ancient and brutal world of God of War comes alive. Tonight, we journey into the heart of myth and legend, where gods and mortals clash, and a warrior's unyielding spirit defies even the will of Olympus. So, find your most comfortable spot. Let the thunderous roar of gods and the clash of mighty weapons stir your imagination, and allow yourself to be swept away into these tales of vengeance, redemption, and a world forever marked by the wrath of Kratos, the Ghost of Sparta. Let me know in the comments where you're from and what time it currently is. Let's begin. The birth of the Ghost of Sparta. Long before he was known as the Ghost of Sparta, Kratos was a mere mortal, of fierce Spartan warriors with a hunger for victory and an unbreakable will. Born in the rough lands of Sparta, he was trained from a young age to become a soldier, raised to believe that honor was found only on the battlefield. The harsh landscape and brutal training shaped him into an unyielding force, but it was a path filled with suffering, loss, and a relentless thirst for power. Kratos was not an ordinary soldier. He had been gifted with strength, speed, and endurance beyond that of his peers. These qualities made him a formidable warrior, and soon caught the attention of the Spartan commanders. But Kratos' drive was more than just for glory. It was personal. He sought to prove his worth, to stand above all others, to carve his legacy in blood and honor. One day, as he led a unit of Spartans in a fierce battle against a rival army, he showed no mercy. His brutal efficiency on the battlefield became his calling card, striking fear in the hearts of his enemies. He fought with a wild fury, never hesitating, never relenting, a storm of strength and rage. But fate had darker plans for Kratos, plans that would change him forever. It was during a brutal campaign against the barbarians from the east that Kratos met his greatest challenge. Outnumbered and overpowered, the Spartans were on the brink of defeat. The barbarian king loomed over Kratos, his massive hammer raised, ready to crush the Spartan's skull. Bloodied and broken, Kratos could feel the weight of failure pressing down on him. He knew that his life, his legacy, would end here. Desperate and on the verge of death, Kratos did the unthinkable. He called out to Ares, the god of war. "Ares, grant me the power to destroy my enemies, and I will serve you." In that moment, the skies darkened, and a chilling wind swept through the battlefield. Time seemed to stand still, as a voice echoed through Kratos' mind, dark and powerful. "You shall have your power," Ares whispered, his voice filled with sinister satisfaction. A surge of red energy enveloped Kratos, filling him with a strength beyond mortal understanding. His wounds healed, his senses sharpened, and his rage became unstoppable. The blades of chaos appeared, fused to his arms by Ares' dark magic. These chained weapons, forged in the fires of the underworld, were a gift from the god himself, a curse disguised as power. Empowered by Ares, Kratos rose from the ground and unleashed his newfound might on the barbarians. He cut through them with ease, A whirlwind of fury and blood, his enemies fell before him, unable to withstand the brutal strength of the God of War's chosen warrior. The barbarian king was slain, and Kratos stood victorious, but the cost of that victory would haunt him forever. From that day forward, Kratos served Ares, leading the Spartans to countless victories, expanding the empire in the god's name. However, Ares' influence began to corrupt Kratos' soul. The god encouraged his rage, driving him deeper into madness and violence. Under Ares' command, Kratos became a merciless executioner, losing himself to the thrill of battle and the whispers of power. As Kratos' bloodlust grew, so did his disregard for life. Villages were burned, innocents slaughtered, and all who opposed him met a brutal end. His once noble quest for honor had twisted into a path of devastation, his soul bound in servitude to the God of War. But fate would strike another cruel blow upon Kratos. During a raid on a small village, Kratos, in a blind fury, burst into a temple, cutting down everyone in his path. When the red mist of battle finally lifted from his mind, he saw the faces of his wife and daughter, slain by his own hand. Ares had led him there, knowing that killing his own family would sever his ties to humanity, transforming him into the perfect warrior. Horrified and broken, Kratos stumbled out of the temple, his skin forever marked with the ashes of his slain family, binding him to his sins. He became known as the Ghost of Sparta, cursed to wander, his skin pale as ash, a symbol of his betrayal and tragedy. The gods had watched his descent, and some took pity on him, while others reveled in his suffering. Haunted by visions of his family, Kratos sought to break free from Ares' control, but the god's influence was strong. Ares believed that Kratos was now his perfect weapon, an unfeeling warrior bound by vengeance and fury. But Kratos' will was unyielding, and he vowed to end the nightmare that had become his life. Driven by guilt and fueled by rage, Kratos began a journey of redemption and revenge. He sought the gods' guidance, determined to find a way to rid himself of Ares' curse. He would stop at nothing to regain control of his destiny and to find peace for the tormented souls of his family. His journey would take him to the highest mountains and the deepest realms of the underworld, and he would face gods and monsters alike in his quest for vengeance. The tale of Kratos' beginning is one of ambition, betrayal, and tragedy. He was a man forged by war, molded by gods, and ultimately cursed by his own choices. The Ghost of Sparta had been born, and the path of blood and vengeance stretched out before him, leading him to battles beyond mortal comprehension. Kratos' story would not end here. This was merely the beginning, a prelude to the wrath and power that would one day shake Olympus itself. The path of vengeance. With his heart heavy and his spirit broken, Kratos wandered the desolate landscape, tormented by memories of his wife and daughter. Night after night, he was haunted by visions of their final moments, their faces twisted in shock and betrayal. Their screams echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of the curse that bound him to his sins. He was the Ghost of Sparta, a title that would forever mark him. His skin stained pale with the ashes of his family, a punishment from the fates themselves. But Kratos, for all his pain, was not a man to be broken so easily. Beneath the grief, a burning anger began to take root, a fury directed at the god who had led him to this nightmare. Ares, the god of war, had manipulated him, twisted his soul, and turned him into a weapon. Now, Kratos vowed that he would bring down the very god he had once sworn to serve. His journey would be perilous, for no mortal had ever defied a god and lived. But Kratos was no ordinary mortal. He was driven by a force stronger than fear, fueled by a desire for revenge that transcended even death. And so, with the blades of chaos bound to his flesh, he set forth on a path that would lead him to the highest peaks and into the depths of Hades itself. Kratos' journey took him to the Temple of Delphi, where the oracle was said to possess knowledge of the gods and their secrets. He traveled through scorching deserts, crossed storm-tossed seas, and climbed treacherous mountains, facing beasts and monsters that sought to tear him apart. But Kratos was relentless, each battle strengthening his resolve. At last, he arrived at Delphi, the temple rising high above the land, its pillars gleaming in the sunlight. The oracle, an ancient woman cloaked in red and adorned with golden chains, awaited him within. Her eyes were sharp, seeing beyond the veil of mortal life into realms of prophecy and fate. "Ghost of Sparta," she intoned, her voice echoing with a power beyond the physical world. "You seek vengeance against the god of war. But know this, such a path is paved with blood, and the gods do not take kindly to rebellion. I care nothing for the gods," Kratos growled, his voice filled with venom. "Ares will pay for what he's done. Tell me how to kill him." The oracle gazed at him, her expression unreadable. "You cannot kill a god with mortal strength alone. Ares is powerful, his essence bound to Olympus itself. To defeat him, you will need a weapon forged by a power greater than any on this earth." Kratos clenched his fists, frustration boiling within him. "Then where do I find such a weapon?" The oracle paused, her gaze softening slightly. "Seek out Pandora's box, a relic hidden within the Temple of Pandora, on the back of the Titan, Kronos. Within the box lies the power to rival the gods. But beware, Kratos, for to open the box is to face the full wrath of Olympus." Kratos' eyes narrowed. He was undeterred, his mind set on his goal. "I will do whatever it takes," he declared. "Ares will fall." Armed with newfound purpose, Kratos left Delphi and began his journey to the Temple of Pandora. The temple was a fortress carved into the very back of Kronos, the mighty Titan who had been cast down by Zeus and forced to crawl the desert for eternity. It was said that the path to Pandora's box was treacherous, filled with deadly traps, monstrous guardians, and trials designed to keep the box out of reach of mortals and gods alike. Kratos fought through hordes of beasts, slaying everything in his path, with a fury that grew with each battle. His journey was marked by bloodshed, and his legend began to spread. Villagers and soldiers alike whispered of the Ghost of Sparta, the warrior who defied the gods, his eyes burning with vengeance, his heart filled with hatred. As he drew closer to the temple, Kratos encountered monstrous beings that had guarded Pandora's box for centuries. He battled cyclopes, minotaurs, and deadly serpents, each more fearsome than the last. His blades of chaos danced in his hands, a whirlwind of destruction that left nothing in his wake. But even as he fought, the memories of his family haunted him, their faces appearing in the shadows, their cries echoing in the silence. He had vowed to avenge them, to bring justice to their souls by ending Ares' reign. Yet deep within, he feared that this quest would never truly free him from his torment. After days of fighting and countless trials, Kratos finally reached the desert where Kronos, the ancient Titan, crawled across the sands. The Titan's massive form loomed above him, a mountain of flesh and stone. Kratos climbed onto the Titan's back, gripping the chains and ledges that jutted from Kronos' cracked, weathered skin. The Titan groaned in pain, his deep voice rumbling through the sands, but Kratos continued his ascent. The temple of Pandora was carved into the very flesh of Kronos, suspended on his back like a twisted monument of the god's cruelty. At last, Kratos reached the entrance, his body battered, but his spirit unbroken. The doors to the temple loomed before him, ancient and ominous, and he knew that beyond them lay the weapon he needed to defeat Ares. Inside the temple, Kratos faced a series of brutal challenges, each one testing his strength, wit, and resolve. He solved intricate puzzles, navigated deadly traps, and defeated powerful guardians, his every step bringing him closer to Pandora's box. The gods themselves seemed to test him, yet Kratos overcame every obstacle with sheer determination and unrelenting fury. At last, he reached the chamber where Pandora's box rested, encased in golden light, its intricate designs glowing with a power beyond comprehension. He approached the box, his heart pounding, for he knew that opening it would mark the beginning of his final battle against Ares. But before he could open it, a vision of his family appeared before him. His wife, her face filled with sorrow, and his daughter, reaching out to him. Kratos faltered, the weight of his guilt threatening to consume him. But he clenched his fists, banishing the vision from his mind. "Ares took you from me," he whispered, his voice a mixture of rage and grief. "And now, I will take everything from him." With a final, powerful motion, Kratos opened Pandora's box, and a surge of godly energy enveloped him. His strength grew, his mind sharpened, and his soul became bound to a power that could challenge even the gods. As the energy subsided, Kratos stood taller, his eyes burning with newfound power. He had taken the first true step in his journey of vengeance, and he was no longer just a mortal. He was a warrior forged by loss, a force of rage and defiance, a god slayer in the making. With Pandora's box now open, the gods of Olympus had taken notice. They would not let him challenge their power without consequence. But Kratos was ready. He would face whatever trials awaited him, even if it meant facing the wrath of the gods themselves. As he left the temple, his mind focused on one singular goal: to kill Ares and free himself from the chains of his past. His journey was far from over, and he knew that the road ahead would be paved with blood and suffering. But Kratos welcomed it. He would not stop until he had his revenge. And so, the Ghost of Sparta continued his journey, bound for war, his soul set ablaze with the fires of vengeance. Wrath of the Ghost of Sparta. With Pandora's box in his possession, Kratos returned to the mortal realm, his eyes set on the city where Ares waged his war. Athens lay under siege, its people caught in the midst of the gods' brutal assault. Flames consumed the buildings, and the cries of the innocent echoed through the streets as the god of war's army marched forward. But amidst the chaos, the people began to whisper of a warrior who had defied the gods, a mortal who could stand against Ares. They called him the Ghost of Sparta. As Kratos descended upon the burning city, the power of Pandora's box surged within him, fueling his strength and sharpening his mind. No longer was he just a man with vengeance in his heart. He was a warrior imbued with the strength of the gods themselves, and he was ready to confront the one who had destroyed his life. Kratos tore through the city, his blades of chaos cleaving through Ares' monstrous minions, each strike guided by the memory of his lost family. The streets ran red with the blood of the god's followers, and his rage became a storm that none could withstand. The ground trembled as he approached the city's main square, where Ares himself stood, a towering figure clad in dark armor, wreathed in flames. The god turned as Kratos approached, his voice a mocking echo. "So, my warrior returns," Ares sneered, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. "Have you come to thank me for making you the perfect weapon?" Kratos gripped his blades tightly, his knuckles white with fury. "You took everything from me, Ares. My family, my soul, and now I've come to take something from you." Ares laughed, the sound like thunder. "You think you can defy a god, mortal? You are nothing but a pawn, a puppet to be discarded when broken." "No," Kratos growled, his voice laced with unrelenting defiance. "Not anymore." "No," Kratos growled, his voice laced with unrelenting defiance. "Not anymore." Without another word, Kratos charged, his blades slicing through the air as he unleashed the full power of Pandora's box. Ares met him in a flash of flame, their weapons colliding in a blinding display of strength and fury. The ground cracked beneath them, and the very air seemed to burn, as the Ghost of Sparta and the God of War clashed in a battle that shook the heavens. Their fight was a whirlwind of chaos and blood, each blow resonating like thunder across the burning city. Ares wielded godly powers, summoning walls of fire, hurling molten boulders, and striking with impossible strength. But Kratos fought with something far more powerful: his unwavering rage, fueled by loss and vengeance. Each strike he landed was a defiance of fate, a challenge to the god who had made him a monster. At one point, Ares summoned dark illusions, conjuring images of Kratos' family as they had been in life, their faces filled with love and warmth. "Do you miss them, Kratos?" Ares taunted, the images twisting with agony. "They died because of you," Kratos faltered, his heart clenching with grief. But then he remembered why he was here, why he had endured so much pain. His face hardened as he banished the illusions with a roar of fury. "You cannot manipulate me, Ares. Not anymore." With a mighty swing of his blades of chaos, Kratos broke through the god's defenses, his blades cutting deep into Ares' flesh. The god stumbled, rage twisting his face, as he realized that his control over Kratos had been severed. No longer could he use the warrior's grief to bend him. The Ghost of Sparta was free. "You may have made me a monster," Kratos hissed. "But now, I'll show you what true power looks like." As Kratos gained the upper hand, Ares became desperate, drawing upon his last reserves of power. His form grew larger, his muscles twisting and bulging with raw strength, his eyes blazing like the fires of Tartarus. "If I am to fall, then I shall take this entire world with me," he roared, summoning a massive firestorm that threatened to consume everything in its path. Kratos braced himself, feeling the weight of the battle bearing down on him, but he stood firm. With a final surge of power, he leapt into the heart of the storm, his blades slicing through the flames as he closed in on Ares. The god's eyes widened in disbelief as Kratos drove his weapons deep into his chest, the power of Pandora's box pulsing through the blades of chaos and into the heart of the god himself. Ares let out a scream that echoed across the heavens, a sound of both fury and fear. He staggered, the fire in his eyes fading, his godly form crumbling as the essence of Pandora's box tore him apart from within. Kratos watched as Ares fell, his body disintegrating into ash, his power dissipating into the air. The god of war was dead, his reign of terror ended by the very warrior he had tried to control. As the fires of the battlefield died down, Kratos stood alone amidst the ruins of Athens, his victory a hollow one. He had defeated Ares, avenged his family, and freed himself from the chains of servitude. Yet, the weight of his sins remained, his soul still haunted by the memories of those he had slain under Ares' influence. The gods watched from Olympus, some impressed by his strength, others wary of the mortal who had slain a god. In the silence that followed the battle, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, appeared before him. "You have done well, Kratos," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "You have rid the world of a great evil, and your deeds will be remembered. But your soul is still tainted by the blood you have spilled." Kratos looked up at her, his face a mask of sorrow and regret. "Then what am I to do? I have nothing left, nowhere to go." Athena regarded him with a hint of pity. "There is a place for you on Olympus, Kratos. A chance to serve the gods as their champion, to redeem yourself in their eyes." For a moment, Kratos was silent, the offer hanging heavy in the air. He knew that his journey of vengeance had brought him nothing but pain and suffering. Perhaps, by serving the gods, he could find a new purpose, a chance to atone for his sins. Slowly, he nodded. "If redemption is to be found, then I will take it. I will serve." And so, the Ghost of Sparta ascended to Olympus, taking his place among the gods as their champion. But even as he donned the mantle of a servant to the divine, Kratos' heart remained heavy. The memories of his past lingered, a constant reminder of the price he had paid for power, the family he had lost, and the curse that had been carved into his very soul. Yet, despite the pain, Kratos was resolute. He would serve the gods, not out of loyalty, but in search of redemption, to find a way to silence the ghosts that haunted him. He had been forged by suffering, shaped by betrayal, and now he would wield that pain as a weapon. But as he stood on Olympus, gazing down upon the mortal realm, a part of him sensed that his story was far from over. The gods were fickle, their loyalty fleeting, and Kratos knew that the peace he sought could only be found through struggle. His path was one of blood and fire, but he was ready, for in the end, the Ghost of Sparta had been born not just to serve, but to defy, and one day, to challenge the very thrones upon which the gods sat. As the tale of ancient dragons, hidden curses, and the unyielding courage of Grancis' heroes comes to a close, let the strength and resilience of those who brave the wilderness guide you into a peaceful slumber. Remember, my fellow adventurers, that even in the darkest forests, the fiercest monsters, and the trials that await in this unforgiving land, the bonds of loyalty and the courage within us can light the way through the stormiest nights. Thank you for joining me tonight. Until next time, may your dreams be filled with the echoes of heroic battles and the hope of new adventures on the horizon. Good night.